Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on the old show today. Interesting times between Aston Martin and Daimler. Daimler is apparently going to make a somewhat of a power grab against Aston Martin. Now, if you don't know already, Aston Martin and Daimler are in a little bit of a romance, if you will, as they've actually hooked up to actually share some stuff in a small partnership. Now, in the early goings, it was supposed to share engine sourcing, especially from the AMG group, for future Aston Martin products. Then there was also some technical stuff that was going to be going back and forth, but really it seemed to be a one-sided romance, especially in the fact that Aston Martin seemed to be getting all the good stuff. Now, Daimler actually went in and bought 5% of Aston Martin, and now we're hearing that there may be a bigger power grab at hand, that Daimler may be going in for a 50-50 deal, or quite possibly to buy the entire Aston Martin group altogether. Now, this could be looked at from two different directions. One direction being the fact this could be great for Aston Martin. You could have a situation where they get all new platforms and all new engine sourcing, which is something that has been sorely needed because they've pretty much been getting on by their looks alone all this time. Much like me, right? Okay. But this could end up pretty badly in another direction, especially for the sheer fact that Daimler, I can remember years ago when they bought the Chrysler Corporation, which I thought may be a great deal, that ended up being pretty horrific because when Daimler came in, they were really wanting the biggest thing was that the code that Chrysler actually cracked back in the day where you could actually go from concept to conception to actually a full-blown car in just a handful of months, which was unheard of at the time. So it was a situation they got in, they got what they wanted, and then they dumped it in the lap of Cerberus. And then Cerberus went in, took out what they wanted, and then dumped it in the lap of the government once the whole shutdown went into effect. And then the government shutdown, well, I shouldn't say government shutdown, but the whole economic shutdown went into effect. And then the sheer fact that they just handed it over to Fiat, which actually has been a situation that I think has been the best situation for the Chrysler Corporation, at least right now, because it's never, in my mind, have been as healthy as it's been today. Back to Aston Martin and Daimler. This is an interesting situation that we're really going to have to keep a close eye on. Apparently, we're not going to have to wait long because apparently this may go down within the next 4 to 5 months. We may know just what exactly Daimler has in mind. So we'll keep you in tune to what comes of this. Next up on the list, well, we've rumored this particular automobile. This is Renaultsport's brand new RS 01. Yes, this was vehicle. Quite possibly this might have been what was going to be that Alpine concept from back in the day. Now, this particular machine is a full-blown race car. Full-blown race car, especially in the weight of the automobile. Only 2,425 pounds is all the weight this vehicle actually weighs. Now, let's talk about the geeky numbers about this thing because Renaultsport really hasn't said what exactly they're going to do with this vehicle. Now, we've already talked about the actual weight of the machine, but this vehicle is a complete Dallara chassis, which is something pretty big because Dallara builds some real race winners. In fact, every chassis on the Indy 500 2014 edition of the Indy 500 grid was all Dallara chassis. Now, this particular vehicle is a carbon monocoque that actually has an integral roll cage and fuel cell actually built right into the chassis. Not to mention that, let's talk about the power plant of this particular machine. It's going to be a mid-engine rear-wheel drive vehicle, and that mid-engine is actually, well, Renaultsport and Renault's partnership with Nissan. Yes, this thing's going to get a Nismo-sourced 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged V6, and of course that sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Yes, that is the Nissan GT-R platform, or at least the engine out of this particular machine. Not to mention this vehicle is going to have a very nice sounding sequential 7-speed transaxle gearbox in the back of this particular machine as well. Now again, we've talked about it being very lightweight, we've talked about the power plants, but again, Renault has yet to say what exactly they're going to do with this vehicle, other than they're going to invite some folks in for some testing on the machine after the back half of this year's season. Quite possibly next year's season is going to happen. In fact, a couple of them that has actually been called out, one of them being the Super GT series over in Japan. That too, there's rumors that Renaultsport might be entering the Super GT series in Japan, quite possibly DTM in Germany, maybe the Blancpain GT series over in Europe as well. It's going to be very interesting to see what Renault does with this. There's also some little rumors this vehicle could be going to Le Mans very soon, so we'll keep you in tune to what they're going to do with this car, and I cannot wait to see what that's going to be. Last up on the list, well, this is a picture of a BMW i8, the most beautiful BMW, well, maybe not the most beautiful BMW that's ever been built, but very good looking nonetheless. Beautiful lines in this particular machine. This machine is actually, well, the auction actually closed down this morning. It was on eBay and was being sold. Now, when you look around the automobile, it looks very fantastic. It's actually owned by a dealership that bought this thing directly from BMW, and it's a little interesting when you look actually underneath the machine, as it's a fake. It's basically got a big, you can see a big metal structure, and there's casters underneath this thing. It's got full wheels and tires and brakes and whatnot. It looks a lot like a real car, but it's not. It's just a fiberglass shell. Now, the weirdest thing of this deal, it did not beat the Reserve, number one. I guess the bigger thing is why did BMW actually sell this to some dealership here in the United States? It's probably the more interesting aspect of this deal. But if you like the Facebook page, and if this thing comes back up for auction and you'd like to watch it, I will put the link up on the Facebook page if you want to check it out, because it's just ended. It didn't meet its reserve, and I actually wouldn't mind owning this particular deal if I had all the money I needed, but $20,000 possibly for a car, and that's about how much it was going for last I seen it. $20,000 for a car that you can't even drive, that you can just stare at, seems a little bit on the pricey side. So, but it's interesting nonetheless, and I'm sure some car fans out there, not only me, but a lot of other folks would probably want their hands on this machine as well. I guess I shouldn't call it a machine, this shell, I guess. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. If you want to jump on over to the Facebook page and like us over there, I can put the link down in the show notes. It'll take you right over there. Also, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon. I'm hoping it was around 6 minutes. 8 minutes and the battery's going dead because someone's getting too blabby.